Please come back to us.
I will, Sarah. I promise.
Please come back safely to me.
We are doing everything we can, Sarah. We will do everything we can. We are going to bring Daniel home.
The night before he left for war, Daniel held his wife's face in his hands and made her a promise. If I don't come back, I will still find a way to keep my promise to you. Sarah smiled through her tears. She thought he was simply trying to comfort her. She never imagined those would be the last words he would ever say to her. 3 months later, Sarah received a phone call that shattered her world. "Madam, your husband is missing in action." But Daniel had left something behind. Something nobody knew about. And when Sarah finally discovered it, she realized that her husband's final promise had never been about coming home. It was about changing her life forever. If you love emotional African stories, powerful love stories, military dramas, heartbreaking twists, and unforgettable life lessons, subscribe to StoryRush TV and turn on the notification bell. Stay until the end, because Daniel's final promise will leave you speechless. Daniel and Sarah had been married for only 3 years. They weren't wealthy. They lived in a modest house on the outskirts of the city. Daniel was a Nigerian army officer. Sarah was a primary school teacher. Their greatest luxury was sitting together every evening after work, sharing dinner and talking about their future. They dreamed of building a bigger house. They dreamed of having children. They dreamed of growing old together. But Daniel's job meant that Sarah had learned to live with fear. Every time his phone rang late at night, her heart jumped. Every time he left for duty, she prayed. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. But something about him was different. He was unusually quiet. Sarah immediately noticed. "What happened?" Daniel forced a smile. "Nothing." Sarah walked closer. "You only say nothing when something is wrong." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he hugged her. "I've been given a special assignment." Sarah's smile disappeared. "Where?" Daniel hesitated. "Far away." "How long?" "I don't know." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "When are you leaving?" "Tomorrow morning." Sarah stared at him. "Tomorrow?" Daniel nodded. She turned away and began crying. Daniel walked behind her and gently held her. "I'll come back." "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" "Because I made a promise." Sarah looked at him. "What promise?" Daniel smiled. "The promise I made you on our wedding day." Sarah remembered. He had promised to love her in good times and bad. To protect her. To stand beside her. And never to abandon her. That night, they stayed awake until dawn. They talked about everything. Their first meeting. Their wedding. Their first Christmas together. Their dreams. Their arguments. Their favorite memories. And then Daniel gave Sarah a small wooden box. "Don't open it until I'm gone." Sarah frowned. "Why?" "Just promise me." She reluctantly nodded. "I promise." The next morning, Daniel put on his military uniform.
Please come back.
Sarah helped straighten his collar.
I promise.
Neither of them wanted to cry. Daniel kissed her forehead. "I love you." "I love you too." He walked toward the door. then turned around. Sarah. She looked at him. If I don't come back. She immediately interrupted him. Don't say that. Daniel smiled sadly. Just listen. He walked back to her. If I don't come back, don't let my absence become the end of your life. Sarah shook her head. You're coming back. Daniel kissed her. I hope so. Then he left. Sarah stood at the doorway watching him disappear. She didn't know that she had just seen her husband alive for the last time. Weeks passed. Then months. Daniel called whenever he could. Sometimes his voice sounded tired. Sometimes he sounded frightened. But whenever Sarah asked him if he was safe, he always said the same thing. I'm fine. Then one evening, the phone stopped ringing. One day passed. Then 2. Then 5. Sarah became terrified. She called his unit. No answer. She called again. Nothing. On the 7th day, 2 military officers arrived at her home. Sarah opened the door. The moment she saw their faces, she knew. One of them removed his cap. Mrs. Daniel. Sarah could barely speak. Yes. The officer swallowed hard. Your husband is missing in action. The world stopped. Sarah stared at him. What does that mean? We lost contact with his unit during an operation. Is he dead? The officer looked down. We don't know. Sarah collapsed. For weeks, she refused to accept it. She kept Daniel's clothes exactly where he left them. She slept beside his pillow. She waited for his call. Every night. She prayed. God, bring my husband home. Then she remembered the wooden box. The box Daniel had told her not to open. One night, Sarah finally opened it. Inside was a letter. A photograph of them on their wedding day. A small key. And a handwritten note. Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't keep my promise the way I wanted to. Sarah began crying. She continued reading. But I made another promise. I promised that no matter what happened to me, you would never have to struggle alone. Sarah didn't understand. She looked at the small key. There was an address attached to it. The following morning, she went there. It was a small house on the outskirts of the city. An elderly woman opened the door. Sarah showed her the key. The woman immediately began crying. You're Sarah. Sarah froze. How do you know my name? The woman stepped aside. Come inside. The house contained photographs. Dozens of them. Photographs of children. Widows. Poor families. Orphans. And in the center of the room was Daniel. Sarah couldn't breathe. What is this? The elderly woman smiled through tears. Your husband has been helping people for years. He never told you. Sarah shook her head. The woman explained. Daniel had secretly used part of his salary to support struggling families. He had paid school fees for children. Bought food for widows. Paid medical bills. And helped former soldiers who had nowhere to go. Sarah sat down. Her husband had spent years quietly helping people. And she had never known. Then the woman handed Sarah another envelope. This is the last one. Sarah opened it. Inside was Daniel's final letter. My love. If you're reading this, I may not be coming home. But please don't spend your life mourning me. I want you to continue what I started. There is money in the account I opened in your name. There is also a small piece of land. Use them to build something that will outlive me. Build a home for children who have nowhere to go. Give them the future we dreamed of giving our own children. And whenever you miss me, don't look at my grave. Look at the lives we changed together. That is where you will find me. I love you. Forever. Daniel. Sarah pressed the letter against her chest. She cried until she had no tears left. But something changed inside her. She realized Daniel's final promise wasn't about returning to her. It was about leaving something behind that would keep his love alive. 1 year later, Sarah opened a small children's home. She named it Daniel's Promise. The first children arrived with nothing. No parents. No money. No hope. Sarah welcomed them with open arms. She gave them food, education, clothes, and most importantly, love. Years passed. The small home became a large foundation. Hundreds of children were helped. Schools were built. Medical bills were paid. Widows received assistance. And former soldiers found support. Every year on Daniel's birthday, Sarah gathered everyone together. She would tell them about a soldier who had made a promise. A promise to protect the woman he loved. A promise that continued even after he disappeared. Then, 12 years after Daniel went missing, Sarah received a letter. There was no return address. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sentence. I kept my promise. Did you? Sarah's heart stopped. Below the sentence was a photograph. A photograph of Daniel. Older. Thinner. But unmistakably him. Sarah dropped the letter. Daniel. He was alive. For 12 years. Everyone had assumed he was dead. But he had survived. He had been captured during the operation and held somewhere far away. Eventually, he escaped. But he had been afraid to return because he believed the people responsible for his capture were still searching for him. Now, he was finally free. Sarah couldn't breathe. She grabbed her phone. But before she could call the number on the letter, a knock came at the door. She slowly walked toward it. Her hands trembled as she opened the door. And there he stood. Older. Scarred. Weak. But alive. Sarah stared at him. Neither of them spoke. Then Daniel whispered. I told you I'd come back. Sarah ran into his arms.
I'm finally home, Sarah.
They held each other and cried. 12 years of pain. 12 years of waiting. 12 years of unanswered questions. All disappeared in one embrace. Daniel looked around the children's home. What is this? Sarah smiled through her tears. Your promise. Daniel looked at the children. Then back at Sarah. You did it. She shook her head. We did it. Daniel smiled. And for the first time in 12 years, he knew that his final promise had been kept. Not because he had returned home, but because the love he left behind had continued changing lives. Some promises are fulfilled in a single moment. Others take years. And the greatest promises are the ones that continue even when the person who made them is no longer there. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to StoryRush TV for more emotional African stories, powerful love stories, mysteries, family dramas, and unforgettable life lessons. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next story. And remember, true love is not measured by how long someone stays beside you. It is measured by what their love continues to do. Even when they are gone, ***. This is StoryRush TV, where every story has a secret, and every secret has a lesson.